Silverstone delivers dramatic Grand Prix. Sainz gets first F1 win. And Hamilton on the podium again. Welcome to the Late Night Race Review.
Welcome back to the Late Night Race Review for what was an incredible British Grand Prix. I'm Dave Jericho, and joining me as always is Owen Scott and Isidro Gonçalves. Gentlemen, what did we make of the weekend? I think I know the answer, but how did you enjoy it? Scotty, let's go to you first.
Yeah, fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. As I said to you before we started recording, I was wrecked coming into the race, but as soon as it kicked off, I was full of energy, and then once the race was over, I was wrecked again. Yeah, it was great. Absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, it was an unbelievable race. Absolutely unbelievable. Yeah, I was off the seat most of the race as well. Isidro, what did you make of it?
Oh yeah, it was a great race from the start to the end. Despite the accident just at the first lap, even after, once it picked up the pace, it was great to see the little battles at front, and even at the end we see Latifi fighting for the points, Mick Schumacher getting points. It was a roller coaster of emotions, I'll say.
I'll say. Well, you touched on it there as well, the crash at the start. I mean, that seems to be where we should start for this podcast. I mean, Zhou Guanyu had a horrific crash at the start of the race, and thankfully the halo and the roll hoop did its job and protected him in the accident. Well, looked like maybe a racing incident. George Russell sort of pinched Pierre Gasly trying to come down the center between Zhou Guanyu and himself. And that sort of caused a chain reaction where George Russell went into Zhou, flipped the car over and skidded down into the barriers and flipped up into the catch fencing, which is the first time I've seen a car in recent years hit that catch fencing. What did you make of that, Isidro? Would you see it the same way? Do you think it was a racing incident, or do you think maybe a little bit of the blame lands on George Russell?
Yeah, I think it was purely an incident. There's no intention of causing an accident. The fact that Russell just left the car and went to see if his colleague was all right, even though that might cost him the race. The immediate concern was about his colleague rather than, let's just get back to race as soon as possible. So I believe it's an incident. There's no intention.
Yeah. And there was also another that obviously caused a knock-on effect further back. We had Bottas sort of trying to avoid that crash, which then, as he slowed down, caused sort of Albon to hit the brakes, which then sent Vettel into the back of him. And what looked like sort of a fairly sort of routine accident for a Formula One race, where Albon went into the barrier. He ended up going to the medical office and sort of getting a thorough check over because he triggered the G-force sensors in the cockpit. So so thankfully everybody came out of that okay. And Zhou Guanyu, the safety equipment, has done its job. But before we move on, and just on George Russell, he did get out. He went to see whether Joe was okay, left his vehicle on the side of the road, went back to the pits because he couldn't get it started. Then as he came back, apparently he had mentioned to the marshals to leave his car alone. But as he came back, they had already put his car on top of the trailer. Because of that, that's how his car ended up back in the pits, and he wasn't able to rejoin the race for the race restart. Do you think this was a fair decision, given that he, like you say, he was only stopping to make sure Joe was okay, given the severity of the crash? Or were the FIA right sticking to the letter of the law, and Russell couldn't start? Scotty, what do you make of it?
Well, I think the way that the FIA went today is a bit of a knock-on effect from everything that happened last season. They want to try and avoid any sort of new circumstances coming up where they have to make a ruling on the spot. They want to stick fairly close to what it says in the rule book. There may have been a miscommunication between Russell and the stewards, but the way it went was the car was turned off. it was put onto the truck by the time he got back, and by the letter of the law, he can't restart the race. So it is what it is, and the rules are there for a reason. It's to avoid like what happened last year in Abu Dhabi, I think.
Just on that, do you think we'll see any memes going around anytime soon of George Russell standing on the shot of him standing on top of the tires, and someone photoshopping a cape or something onto the back of him?
Fair play to him for doing what he did. And as we said before the podcast, it's commendable how he jumped out straight away and took off to see how Joe was.
Yeah.
Fair play to him, but. Yeah, the rules are the rules. I think we need to make that meme.
Yeah, exactly. Well, what followed on from there then was again not quite the race start. There was a bit of news that sort of came out post race that we'll just quickly touch on briefly. There was obviously leading up to the race was the sort of the talk of the protesters and stuff like that. But why I wasn't going to make any mention of it, but the reason I am going to make mention of it because I thought it was kind of funny. That because of the accident that happened, the cars all came into the pits at the end of the first lap, and the protesters had made their way out onto the track, or I think a couple of them had been photographed sitting on the track. If they were basically in time for the second lap, so if the cars hadn't gone into the pits, the protesters would have been there when the cars had made it round for their second lap. But because everybody went into the pits, the protesters ended up just getting arrested. Got no airtime. Absolutely delighted for them.
Yeah, that was great. There is a picture of Ocon driving by one of the protesters. They
were making their way down from the bridge, was it?
Yeah. So there's someone down on the track. There's a load of stewards all over them, and then Ocon is driving by on the right hand side.
Oh, was there already? Because I was listening to Ted Kravitz talking, and he was kind of saying that actually the main protest didn't actually happen because the cars ended up coming into the pits, and the police had got on the scene before sort of the restart and stuff like that. So and again, like they say on the TV coverage, like everyone has a right to protest, but like don't be an absolute idiot. You're just putting other people's lives at risk. Let's move on to our race winner, Mr. Carlos Sainz. His first race win in 150 attempts. Did he deserve the win though?
Yeah, he totally deserved this winning, the first place. If the safety cars helped, I'll say a little bit, but if there was no second safety car, I'm not sure if Sainz will be celebrating as he was at the end of the race. I think without the second safety car, Hamilton would probably would overtake both Ferraris and finish in first place. But we can always say if that would happen. But I think he deserved this first victory.
And that's it. I mean, he can't, and that's what I was saying. He can only race what's put in front of him, and he can only win what's put in front of him, and that's exactly what he did. The team orders, though, from Ferrari, this was an absolute confusion. And we've said it before in this podcast, sort of early on in the season, that if anyone's going to lose this season for Ferrari, it's going to be Ferrari. And we've already seen examples of that happening with poor strategy calls and stuff like that. And this is another one of those, if you ask me. What did you make of Ferrari's strategy going in here? More so the pick calls, where they bounced between who they were favoring in the race. And then as we sort of got to the back end of the race, rather than double stacking, when they had an option to double stack Leclerc and Sainz for the soft tire and probably get them both out in time ahead of Hamilton, they opted to go with just Sainz and leave Leclerc out. Yeah,
it was strange. I think a lot of it was dependent on Leclerc. Quite early on had an incident with, was it Verstappen or Perez?
Perez.
So he took part of his front wing off, and was losing pace quite quickly. So I think Ferrari had seen that, and they were starting to favour Carlos from quite early on. And I do think, as Cedar was saying earlier on, that he feels that Carlos deserved it. I don't think he did deserve it, to be honest. I think it was very much pushed in his favor by the pit wall. And I don't think he would have taken the win, be it for those calls.
And you're right. I suppose, like I said, and again, like I said, he can only win what's put in front of him. I mean, it's not Sainz's fault. But yes,
No.
I think you're right, though. I know what you're saying. The win was sort of taken away from Leclerc. So had the decision been made to bring Leclerc in, if they weren't going to double stack and they went, let's bring Leclerc in, use Carlos Sainz as a buffer. And, the likelihood was that Leclerc would have had the pace on those soft tires to keep the win, especially if they were using Sainz as a buffer. What did you also make of when Carlos came in for the soft tires? Obviously, he came out behind Leclerc. But the team were still trying to get Sainz as the buffer. So this is where I think Ferrari, it got confusing with very confusing, with their strategy, because they obviously favored Sainz bringing him in for the soft tires, but when he was out behind Leclerc, they were asking him to give the 10 car lengths to the maximum 10 car lengths to Leclerc in front. And obviously Carlos fought back on the radio with his team saying that he thought it was a bad idea. So, like, what did you make of this? Like, is it just poor Ferrari decision making, Isidro?
I'm sure they wanted to get both drivers on the podium, but the fact that they had a clear strategy, they first wanted Leclerc, then realized Sainz would probably be the driver to finish the race. But I think they were not very clear from the beginning what they wanted for this race. But they managed to finish the P1 and P4 and get some points. But they definitely need to get, as we are reaching half season, they definitely need to get the strategy and make a decision. What do they want to do going forward? Because they cannot, if they keep like this, they end up, like you said, Ferrari being their own adversary on this, their own enemy.
Well, that's it. I mean, if they need to make a decision soon who they're going to favor, because they've sort of lost. A P1 for Leclerc would have eaten into Max Verstappen's lead more than a P1 and a P for Sainz and a P4 for Leclerc did. I mean, they ate into the lead a little bit by, I think, 6 points, I think, in the driver's title. But anyway, we'll see in Austria what the decisions are and how the race goes for them there. But sort of on Leclerc, I mean, he had the tangle then with Perez, and Perez then ended up with damage to his car that caused him to end up coming into the pits, which put him right back there in, I think, 16th, 17th place, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And not only back in 17th place, but like sort of 14, 15 seconds adrift at that point as well from the car in front. So what did we make of the recovery drive from Perez to go from that position at the start of the race to come away with a P2? Scotty, what did you make of the recovery drive?
Yeah, outstanding. I mean, like, we've seen it from him before. He did it when he was with Racing Point. Remember that race in, was it Bahrain? He went from at the back of the grid all the way to, I think he won the race.
Yeah.
In the end. So he has the capability to do it, and Jesus, did he do it today. Absolutely fantastic. On the hards until that safety car, am I right? And came in and got the softs.
That's right, yeah.
But just absolutely phenomenal. What a race from Perez. Deserved it. Thoroughly deserved it.
And that moves him up now into second in the drivers' title race. Isidro, do you think Perez is? I know people got on the hype train. Formula One is renowned for the hype trains, where everyone thought Perez could win the world title this year. I mean, he's I have to have a quick look here, actually. He is just shy of was he like 36, 37 points, something like that. I'm not going to do the math on the fly. We know how that turns out. But what do you think, Isidro? Do you think he's maybe in with a shout at the driver's title this year?
Yeah, definitely. If Red Bull doesn't start changing their strategy, or if they don't have clear idea of what they want to do, if they leave for Perez and Max to decide between themselves. Perez definitely has a chance. He proved today by driving almost from the last position up, finished second, and he did a great race. He became driver of the day, and today proves that he's definitely up there fighting for the title.
Yeah.
If Red Bull just says, it's up to you guys, just don't screw up, I think Max needs to be careful. Perez is right there.
Well, especially when you have, on Verstappen there on Max's side of things. I mean, I suppose through no fault of his own. I mean, we initially thought, sort of looking at the race, that he went over the curbs and it looked like something had gone on the car, or he picked up a puncture or some sort of suspension damage that sort of brought him into the pits. But it looked like it was actually some debris, they reckon, that he collected that caused damage to the floor of the car, which really sort of impacted him quite considerably. I wonder, though, did it impact him as much as we saw? Or I just felt when we heard the radio calls coming across, especially when he went on the hard tires, it was frustrated, panicked Verstappen over the radio, unhappy, complain. He lost his groove, and I understand. But was there a bit of, if he could have maybe tried to compose himself a bit more? Was there anything else there for him, or was that, based on the damage, was that the best he could have hoped for? Isidro, what do you think?
I think the car was definitely damaged. When he said that there was trouble, I thought that it could be something similar like last week when the Norris was losing power race after race and he finished, but in the almost last position. And here I was afraid of the same. I think he tried to finish race, even the last second that Mick Schumacher was trying to run past him. He still did a bit of a fight just to avoid getting past towards the end. So there was definitely something even small, but was small enough just to damage the Red Bull.
Yeah, that's but I mean, look, damage limitations, he got P7. At least he still came away with some points, and through Ferrari's absolute disaster of strategy decision making, they were only able to creep into his lead by 6 points. So not the worst outcome for Red Bull this weekend at all. And going from a sort of recovery and not a bad result to an absolute stellar result for Lewis Hamilton. Home Grand Prix, third place, up on the podium there in front of the home fans. Are we seeing Mercedes back for the next half of the season, or are you still not refusing to jump on the wagon?
Yeah, I'm not jumping in that wagon. No way. He was brilliant today. Heroic in places. That trade off between him, Perez, Leclerc, and Hamilton. That three-way tussle was just unbelievable. On the edge of my seat. You said it earlier on. That was a phrase that you used. Absolutely fantastic. And in front of the home crowd, I think that the story had been brewing for a few days. It was all about Hamilton, and the crowd was there for Hamilton, and he delivered. I mean, he was not a victim. That's the wrong word, because he was successful. The circumstances allowed him to be in the position he was. Max tailing off, the two Ferraris messing around, the pit wall messing around a little bit. But yeah, heroic drive. It was great to see.
Possibly, though, had the chance of first place, Isidro. I mean, I thought, especially when he came in before the safety car and he came in for his pit stop, I thought they were putting him long on the medium compound tires to bring him out on the soft compound for the last sort of maybe 15 laps of the race. But they sent him out on the hards. I thought that then was maybe his chance gone. Then we had the safety car, everyone out on the softs, and you think, well, this is it. This is Hamilton's race now to lose. Clearly, he's going to be the faster. Then Perez takes him. What do you think? Did you think he had the chance to win the race today? Did he throw it away on that restart after the safety car at the end there? Or, I don't know. What did you make of it?
I think if it was not for the safety car, Hamilton would probably be able to overtake the Perez and Sainz because he was getting second after second on each lap. He was getting faster and faster, and his tire was good. He was saying that we could hear on the talking with the team that he liked the tires. So if he's saying that, that means the tires are good and he wants to do a solid race. If it weren't for the safety car, I believe that Hamilton would most likely get to the first place. He was getting there very, very fast. But then safety car, everyone switched tires. Perez started approaching very, very fast. We had that little battle between the Perez, Leclerc, and Hamilton. And Hamilton was second for maybe 1 or 2 seconds, and then Perez just said, "Well, I'm tired of this. Goodbye." And that Mercedes is not there yet. We could see today that Perez just ran past Hamilton, and that was the end of it. But if it was not for the safety car, Perez would not be as close as he was for the third place, and Hamilton would definitely be. I'm not say faster, but we could probably go past Ferrari. Although saying that Leclerc was able to pass Hamilton outside, on that turn.
Hard tires.
Yeah,
old set of hard tires and a damaged wing.
Yes, and that says a lot about the state of the Mercedes. But I think that Hamilton definitely would fight for the first position today if there wasn't such the safety cars. But Mercedes is getting there slowly.
Yeah, I'm hoping now they have a good second half of the season. It would be nice because they're not too far away. I think they're on 200-ish points in the constructors, and Hamilton's sort of thereabouts with George Russell as well. So, I mean, if they did manage, again, I don't want to be jumping on hype trains, but if they did manage to sort of start getting somewhat competitive with Ferrari and Red Bull, I don't know, we could see, they're not out of the running. If they get a good car, they're not out of the running. So I think we could have a good second half of the season. I'm optimistic. I'm hopeful, maybe.
Yeah.
But from one British driver to another, Lando Norris, P6 for him. I don't know, for me, it was a bit of an, maybe I missed something, but was it a bit of an anonymous race? Was there much going on with Lando throughout the race? Did I miss something? Or did it was just a comfortable drive or solid drive from him and he took P6? I don't know, Scotty, what did you make of Lando's race?
Yeah, I mean, he was there or thereabouts. He was up in P4 at one stage as well, wasn't he? And then there was a slow pit stop and he came out behind Alonso. And I mean, once you come out behind Alonso, that's pretty much it for your race. You're being bottlenecked, aren't you?
Yeah.
So he and Hamilton breezed past him. He said that his fight wasn't with Hamilton. He was happy in the first place to get by Hamilton because he clearly has the faster car. And then he just kind of fell back. I think that pit stop got him. But, decent race, P6, as I predicted, by the way. A P6 finish, decent. And yeah, good to see him up there. But again, the car just isn't there really yet.
Scotty, you need to have a calm down. We're not talking about the game yet. Don't be throwing your weight around just yet.
It's probably the only points that I scored, so whatever.
Well, but you should say on that though, Alonso then did finish in front of him in P5, and that's Alonso's highest finish this season. So, so good race all round for those two. But just I want to talk about Haas as well. But just before we do, let's look at Lando's teammate Daniel Ricciardo, and I don't want to bash too much, but his time has got to be coming to an end. He finished 12th or 13th, did he, in that
13th.
13th in sort of an identical car to Lando, finishing 13th in that race.
Yeah,
I don't know how it happened. He was nowhere the whole race. He was just nowhere.
Can I say the only time that I did actually see him was when he was when the safety car was there and he got to overtake the safety car to get to the back of the grid again.
That's about it. I saw him coming out of the pits in front of was it in front of Hamilton?
Oh, it's the other thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and because I was watching it with Jing, and she's like, "Is that Norris after getting in front of Hamilton?" I'm like, "No, that's Ricardo who's been lapped." Like,
Oh, there is a second McLaren car. There it is.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, like I said, I don't want to keep bashing on Ricardo, but yeah, I've a feeling, and there might be questions being asked at the end of this season going in before they start. Although I think he's contracted for next season, but that means nothing. I mean,
No.
But anyway, let's talk about the man of the hour, Mick Schumacher.
Oh, you're giving out to me about bringing up prediction stuff. All right.
I didn't say anything about predictions. I just saying Mick Schumacher has got his first points in Formula One. Bravo, Mick Schumacher.
Yeah, well done. Well done.
And a double points finish for Haas as well. Which is funny. Gunther Steiner was being interviewed afterwards by Ted Kravitz, and he was telling people not to pile on the pressure to Mick Schumacher. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but was it not Gunther Steiner who, after his last crash, sort of said to Mick, "You better start doing something soon"? Like,
yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. What did we make of Mick Schumacher's drive? I mean, he had a nice little tussle there with, obviously, you mentioned earlier on, with Verstappen towards the end of the race. What did you make of it, Zidro? What did you make of Mick Schumacher's drive today?
It finally was able to finish the race. That was, I think, objective complete. Second objective, get points. He did both this weekend. It was very good. I'm happy to see finally managed to find his way. I don't know if it was the configuration of the car, if it was a track, or he got some tips from Daniel Ricciardo or something.
Jesus.
But well, maybe Schumacher and Latifi, they finally found something, because they did something well this weekend. But Haas, they definitely had a great weekend. I think best weekend so far. I mean, both pilots, both drivers scoring points. That's something very good. And to see if they can do the same next week, or if that's too much pressure for Mick Schumacher.
It would be. Yeah, well, I mean, it would be. I mean, it's obviously it's their first double points finish if it's Mick Schumacher's first points in F1. So, yeah, Scotty, you look like you're.
Can I just point something
hand
out?
Hand up at the back of the class. Go on, Scotty.
Let me just point something out. There were 60 DNFs in this race. They were very much helped by the fact that a lot of cars did not finish. Good race and all, but I'm saying don't get too excited. That's it.
Scotty.
All right, go on, jump on the hype train. Do whatever you want to do.
You drain the soul out of me.
Stop being happy, everyone.
Yeah. On that excited note, let's move on. We've done enough waffling about Silverstone. It was amazing. Deal with it. We're moving on. All right. Let's look at the driver standings and the constructor standings. All right. I'll take the drivers, as always. Scotty, you'll take the constructors.
Excellent.
All right. Max Verstappen still there in first place on 181 points. And moving up into second, I believe, is Sergio Perez on 147. Charles Leclerc should have got more, should have been closer to Max Verstappen, but he stays in, or he's back in third at 138 points. Carlos Sainz in fourth, 127. Fifth, we've George Russell on 111. Lewis Hamilton gaining a bit of traction there towards the front on 93 points in sixth. Lando Norris, seventh, 58 points. Eighth is Valtteri Bottas on 46 points. Esteban Ocon in ninth on 39 points. Fernando Alonso, 10th on 28 points. 11th, Pierre Gasly, 16 points. Kevin Magnussen, 12th, 16 points. Sebastian Vettel, 13. I feel like I'm doing the Sunday football scores. 13th, Sebastian Vettel, 15 points. 14th, Daniel Ricciardo, 15 points. Yuki Tsunoda in 15th on 11 points. Zhou Guan Yu, 16th with 5 points. Mick Schumacher, 17th with 4 points. Yeah. Alex Albon in 18th on 3 points. And how did this happen?
Has it moved around?
It has moved around. Nicholas Latifi is now in 20th.
Could that be something to do with the qualifying position?
It
I
must be
wonder.
something to do with the number of race finishes or something like that,
Oh,
or is it
maybe.
the race positions that he finished in or something.
Yeah.
He finished higher than Nico Hulkenberg.
That's a pity.
That is an absolute letdown. All right, Nicholas Latifi in 20th, yeah, 0 points, and 21 Nico Hulkenberg. Nico Hulkenberg in 20th. All right,
Nico.
all right. Let's hit the constructor standings here before it all falls apart.
All right, here we go. Brighton and Hove Albion 1. No, sorry. Okay, Constructors 2022. Here we go. In first position with 328 points, Red Bull Racing. In second, Ferrari, pretty close behind in 265. That's not pretty close, actually. Number 3, Mercedes with 204 points. Number 4, McLaren with 73. Alpine even just behind in fifth.
Alpine fresh.
On that note, I saw an Alpine the other day. It was beautiful driving around trim. 67 points for Alpine. Alfa Romeo Ferrari in sixth on 51 points. Alpha Tauri, the two lads today, what were they at? Yuki taking out Pierre, doing a Yuki in seventh position on 27 points. Haas in eighth with 20 points. Aston Martin in ninth with 18 points, and down at the bottom is Williams in 10th with 3 points.
Yeah, missed opportunity there for Latifi to add some points to their tally.
Yeah, he finally made it.
Yep. All right. Now, predictions.
Right,
the important part of the podcast. All right, I'll start. Top 3, I had Leclerc, Verstappen, and Hamilton.
Yeah, good job. I didn't see that coming, to be honest. My top 3, Verstappen, Leclerc 2, Sainz 3.
Donuts all around.
Clean slate. Isidro.
I got Verstappen first. Nope. Sainz second. Nope. Hamilton third. Yay.
Pretty good.
All right. My flop was Lando Norris with a DNF. That didn't happen. Yeah. Donut.
My flop was Perez DNF.
Donut.
Also did not happen. Although I was hopeful when he got that tip at the very start. But yeah, no dice.
Oh, and the hero of the hour, Isidro, who did you have?
My flop was Bottas outside top 10.
Well,
No.
Yeah.
No.
Oh, no.
That says outside the top 10.
Scotty has his FIA book out.
He DNF'd. He didn't go outside the top 10.
We call DNFs for Norris and Perez.
Yeah.
And yeah.
I don't think he deserves a point there.
It's a donut.
No, I don't. My prediction was outside top 10, not DNF. If it was NF, I would have said Bottas DNF.
Yeah. All right. Donuts all around. All right, then my surprise, I went with him 3 times in a row, and I said if he didn't do it this week, I was going to bail on him for Austria. Mick Schumacher. Yes.
Good job. That was a good one. Yeah. It was bound to happen. As you said, a stopped clock.
Yeah, exactly.
Is right 2 times a day.
That's exactly all that happened there.
Okay, my surprise was Norris, and I said P6.
Absolute dancer.
Yeah, P6 on the money.
Now, Isidro.
Yeah,
Your surprise.
Yeah, I was very surprised. It was Zo P9. That didn't happen.
Can I just say, he sort of finished in P9. It was like the 9th seat in the stand that he ended up in. Poor old Joe.
All right. Well, then let's see now. What I've just realized we forgot to mark our scores here as we went along. So,
I got 1.
So,
Terrible.
do I get the win?
You'd get the win, Dave.
Oh, yes.
You got 2 points. Me and Isidro got 1. Bringing the total to what? What's the scores overall now?
All right. So that's me on 5 points, Scotty on 4 points, and Isidro still dragging his heels on 1 point.
You have 6 points, Dave, because you got Hamilton third place.
No, it's 1 point for the win.
It's the
overall.
win. It's just 1 point for the win.
Oh, okay.
Well, that's just ruined it.
Very good.
All right, okay. Now let's jump into our predictions for Austria. Let's see now. I will call out mine first.
Okay, go for it.
Let me see. Right. I have Verstappen taking the win.
Ooh.
If I can type in Verstappen correctly and not Verstappen. I'll go with Leclerc in second. So I'm going to be very unprofessional and mention my wife is cooking chicken wings and I'm starving and I can
beautiful.
smell them. And the worst thing is she's obviously cooking them just for herself.
Oh, no.
So in third, on that note, I'm going to go with Carlos Sainz.
Ooh.
Yeah.
All right, my
So-
top three. I went for also Verstappen in number 1. I went for Sainz number 2, and I went for Perez number 3.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
All right. Isidro, who you got in your 1, 2, and 3?
Max Verstappen first.
Oh, look at us all original.
Sergio Perez second. Carlos Sainz third.
Nice.
Wow.
Can I just say, looking at Verstappen there up the top of all of our predictions, if it wasn't for how unpredictable that bloody car was, he would be streaks ahead this season.
Yeah.
I know we're getting into a different topic here, but yeah, anyway, let's move on.
All right. My flop this week or for next week is Perez.
Oh, that's okay.
And I'm going to go with a DNF. I think it's going to be a reliability issue, but I'm just going to go I'm just going to keep it generic as a DNF.
Yeah, that's fine.
Scotty, who's your flop?
My flop for next week is going to be George Superhero Russell with a DNF. I think the car is going to let him down.
All right, Isidro, who you got?
Norris, DNF.
Oh, we're all going DNFs here.
DNF. Yeah. No one's predicting outside the top 10s or anything like that. No one's playing it safe. Everyone's going.
Yeah.
All right,
Digging in
Norris,
deep.
DNF. What do you expect? Reliability, a crash? You can keep it as generic as DNF, but what are you thinking on the DNF?
It will be the car reliability.
Reliability.
Maybe, yeah, not the crash. Norris is not the guy of crashing that much. Small McLaren letting down.
All right. That's not bad. All right, my surprise is an absolute hope and a prayer.
Right.
And it's not Schumacher for a 4th week in a row. It is Alex Albon.
Oh, what?
With a top 10 finish.
Oh, my Lord.
In that new upgraded car.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, again, look at qualifying. He had his lovely brand spanking new car and didn't do a whole lot with it.
I'm not going to argue. I'm not going to debate. I'm Albon.
Okay.
Top 10. It's happening.
Okay. My surprise for next week, if you can't see it already, is Lando Norris P4 finish. I'm going P4.
Norris with a P4.
Yeah, he likes this track. He got a P3 here last year. Is that right? Or the year before?
You do realize it's not the same car.
Yeah, I know. But I'm trying to hit big air here.
Well, before we move on then to Isidro's surprise, I feel I must ask you, where do you see Leclerc and Hamilton finishing in your race predictions here?
Leclerc will make it about 2 laps around and his car is going to explode. And Hamilton, P10. Let's just say P10. No, I'm not getting judged on this. I'm not getting marked on those predictions. I just have to get them out of the way so I can put Lando
I think
there.
we have to put them down now. And all right, Isidro.
Yeah.
Give me your surprise.
My surprise is you didn't want
terrible.
it, so I'll take it. Schumacher, top 10.
Yeah.
Oh my Lord.
I think he learned a few things, so
You've just doomed him.
well, it will be a surprise.
I think that's. I'll be honest. I would have been comfortable going with Schumacher in a top 10 finish as well for my surprise, but I just thought I'd gone with him for 3 weeks in a row. If I went 4, I think it'd be a bit of Oh, can't curse.
Careful.
Yeah, so I went with Alex Albon. All right, that's oh yeah, and then okay, on for you, Isidro, then where are you seeing Leclerc and Hamilton finishing?
Hamilton P4, Leclerc P7, Russell P6.
Hang on a second.
What?
I'm just gonna note down here Leclerc.
What did I say? Oh, I said Leclerc wasn't going to finish. I don't
P7.
see Leclerc P7. I see, like, I could quicker see him not finishing.
If Leclerc comes P7, now this is Scotty, you'd have to go in on this with me now.
Okay.
But if Leclerc finishes P7, I will automatically concede the win to
yeah,
Isidro.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Regardless of where the rest of the results land, if Leclerc comes P7, Isidro takes the win for that week.
All Leclerc has to do is put his car into second gear, and he's faster than most of the grid. I don't think he's finishing P7.
Yeah, that's
Well, we'll see next week. I'm gonna have a talk with him.
All right, guys. Well, that's it for this week's episode. We'll be back over next week for Austria, the home of Red Bull. So it should be an exciting race. Lord knows we've all gone with Max Verstappen in our predictions, so we know what we think is what's going to happen. So as always, if you want to get in touch with your own questions, comments, or corrections, which there may be a few this week, send them on to feedback@latenightracereview.com or anywhere you find us on social media. And until next week,